is our busiest MTA bus line. And if we're able to get it, then you may have heard about the streetcar from Broadway to West End, and that could extend over to 5 Points. If we get that going over there, all of a sudden you have so many more opportunities for development that would then could work in concert with the SP to make sure that we get that area what it needs to be. You know, I think that the plan provides a good framework for moving forward, and any changes that we as a community decide we want to make to that, then I'm willing to work with everyone involved to make sure we get to the best possible solution.
The Gallatin Road SP was passed in September 2005. Since September of 2005, 3 new building permits have been issued. That's 6 years, 3 permits. There's the Regions Bank, there's 5th and Main, and there's the Popeyes Chicken. There's 3 in 6 years. Gallatin Road is one of the major arteries into our city, and we as a neighborhood want to be at the forefront, at the negotiation table, constructing that development. Now, the Gallatin Road SP has a great idea behind it. We don't want advanced payday loan, predatory lending places, on our street. We don't want adult novelty shops. We don't want those things on Gallatin Road. We can all agree on that. The SP was done because it was a neighborhood effort to try to make things better. And it's certainly, we can all agree on the goals of the SP, but we have to ask ourselves the question, is the SP doing what we want it to do? Now, I would say that if we can make the SP more flexible, what my adversary was talking about just a moment ago was the Fluffo Mattress Company. They want to tear that down and put in a brand new building, something we all want. But the cost of moving the utility line, the sewer line below it, it has made it cost prohibitive for that to be developed, because the building has to abut the street. Well, in order to abut the street, the person that builds the new building has to break ground, take the utility out of the ground, and move it. That's the type of inflexibility that's preventing that kind of needed development on Gallatin Road. And the examples are many. I went through in preparing for this and preparing for my candidacy, and I pulled every single building permit that went on Gallatin Road from 2005 until now, and from 2000 until 2004. The Home Depot, the CVS, the Walgreens that everyone shops at don't happen in the current SP. Now, those 3 places employ more people, they provide more tax revenue for the city than anywhere else on Gallatin Road and Main Street. I don't want to see strip malls. I don't want to see advanced payday loans. I don't want to see adult novelty shops. Do I want to have the ability to work with property developers on a case-by-case basis to decide what's best for the neighborhood? Yes. So while we've heard a lot today about generalized ideas and where we want to go, I have a specific plan. And in my final 30 seconds, there's probably not enough time, but specifically, I want to keep the SP in its current position, but I want to segment it by property. If you look in the United States, I looked around for another example of where we've done a broad brushstroke design of a specific plan all the way up and down Gallatin Road, and I couldn't find one. So my time is up, but I have a plan, so please ask me about it after we're done here, or ask another question.
Nothing like a plan. All right. The last question is a question by committee, so you have to kind of follow this one along. The Riverfront Park is being constructed, and this district has a large stake in the quality of that development. And Mayor Dean appears to be on board with it now, although he did have to be convinced. What needs to be done along the riverfront to encourage its development? How do you see that impacting the location and relocation, or possible relocation, of Phillips Steel? What will you do to see that the city focuses resources on East Nashville so that tax dollars spent on downtown and the Gulch and similar development efforts get spread across the river to the east side? In other words, Do you think we're getting a fair share of the pie? I think this goes to David.
Okay. That's quite a question for 2 minutes, but I'll do. Oh, it's Pete. I apologize. Okay.
It's all right.
I appreciate you taking that story.
That's it. I think I caught the gist of it. All right, riverfront development is something that we all understand is critical to our success and critical to the connection between downtown. Over here, I know that we feel as if we need to share in the success of downtown. I support a vibrant downtown. I want downtown to continue to be an excellent place that people are attracted to. And I also want to make sure that we improve our connectivity to the downtown area. You know, we've seen the pedestrian bridge, and we know that that's been a strong connection. But in addition to the river, we also have an interstate that separates us as well. So that's an area that we need to try to figure out easier way to have access to what's going on downtown. The park that's going on is going to be terrific. When it opens up this fall, I think we're going to see a lot of activity going over there. And I think that we need to find better ways to connect people to that area. In regards to the PSC site, that's going to be a very difficult, very complicated situation to address. There are a number there's been a number of efforts to move them. They have a right to be there because of their history there. And I will certainly want to look at the long-term vision of the riverfront and try to figure out the best possible scenario. I don't know if I can say for certain when that's going to happen, what the circumstances of that will be, or the how we get that done, but I'll be willing to work with all of the interested parties, from the administration, people and officials at the state level, to try to find the best solution and the best possible circumstances for making more of the riverfront a welcoming place for a greater portion of that. I think that as we continue to see the development of that Cumberland Park, as it's being called now, as we continue to see more investment into the master plan of Shelby Park, the area along Davidson and the area along that entire riverfront needs to be embraced in a much more broad and comprehensive way. And I'll be very happy to help facilitate that process to the best extent possible.
Sorry for jumping the gun there. No, not at all. One of these days, we in Nashville are going to discover that we have a riverfront. Pittsburgh's done it, St. Louis has done it, Jacksonville's done it, Indianapolis has done it with their canal district, and I want to have that here as well. So with the first part of that question, as I understood it, was what do you want to see done on the riverfront? Well, I want to see the East Bank get the respect and the money that it is due. Downtown area, they feel like, sometimes I feel like when I listen to the discourse that goes on, that the east side really isn't considered a part of Nashville. They go, oh, you're going across the river over there into East Nashville. Well, our riverfront and our bank is some of the best riverfront property in Nashville. I want to see things like the Cumberland Park develop, but I also want to see us utilize that space to gain tax revenue for our city so that we can spend money on schools, so that we can fund the public infrastructure. That's going to come with mixed-use development as well on the riverfront. So I want to see that happen as well, and that'll be one of the things that I'll focus on if you allow me to be your councilman. The other part of that question was PSC metals. The other thing I want to do is I want to be judged, if I'm given the chance to be your councilman, by the effort that I've made at the end of my first term on trying to relocate PSC metals. Our former councilman, or our current councilman, Mike Jamison, has done an admirable job. What he's dealing with is a situation with a recycling facility that's one of the most profitable operations for Carl Icahn. If any of you have seen the movie Wall Street, the character of Gordon Gekko is based on Carl Icahn, who owns our PSC Metals facility right across the river. And we can all be concerned about it being an eyesore. I hate the shots when we all watch the Titans on television and they show that giant eyesore of PSC Metals across the river, and we can all agree about that. But the one thing that isn't focused on is that they are a polluter. They're one of the worst polluters in all of Tennessee. Arsenic, lead, all of the things that come from their operations go into the soil. When they built the Cumberland Play Park, 10 feet of the soil there, I believe, had to be removed and excavated so new soil could be brought in, just so it would be safe for kids to play there. They're polluters. And the arsenic and the lead and the other things that they're putting into the soil adhere to the limestone, which is porous in nature and is causing us to have pollution go into our Cumberland River, our drinking water. So one of the touchstones of my campaign, one of the things that I find to be paramount to the overall, when you step back and glance and look at the record of a councilman and the next councilman for this district, is what did they do about PSC? And I want to pressure PSC not only through private and public initiatives with the carrots, but I also want to fund it through the sticks and try to use litigation and testing of the soil to prosecute them as polluters. Sorry, I ran out of time.
I think there are two parts to this question. One is obviously that we're talking about the PSC metals and riverfront development. Second is whether our side of the river, East Nashville, is getting the fair share of the pie. I think sometimes the simple answer is no. We need to be able to look for ways to get the same kind of redevelopment districts that a lot of other parts of Nashville have, from the Gulch, where those redevelopment districts come with not only a plan or a zoning requirements, but also come with teeth, in a sense, of TIF financing that give financial incentives for businesses and upstarts. In East Nashville, we already have a great environment of entrepreneurial spirit. We have so many small businesses here already, so we have that culture. I think what we can do to bring us over the top is to look for ways to create sort of small business districts and development districts that would help facilitate and expand our small business base here. I think we're not getting enough of it. I think we should demand a greater share of Metro's resources on that respect. The Cumberland Park obviously was a great first start in developing our riverbank on this side of the riverbank. I'd like to see the Cumberland Park have a connection between the Cumberland Park all the way to Shelby Bottoms. It's not that far. We can continue to develop the riverbank by creating maybe an easement or something that would connect the green space from Shelby Bottoms to Park. PSC metals, obviously, we want PSC metals to move. Eventually they will move. Between now and then, we're going to have to keep the pressure on them, letting them know they want to move. It's going to be a tough situation where we have to use incentives to get them to move. They're private, they own the property, they're a private business, they are generating property tax revenue, they are a polluter, and we have issues to deal with that. But the bottom line is, the more expensive route would be litigation, eminent domain, money that Metro can ill afford to spend when we can use incentives to find them a new location and have them move. That said, there's a whole sort of what we call an island of space of land along that bank from PSC between the interstate and the river. PSC metals is just one component of that space. There's other areas along the riverbank there that are prime properties that could be used for redevelopment, could be used to be targeted as a redevelopment district that could bring commercial space, residential areas to both sides of the river, sort of bridging the gap between both sides of Nashville. I think we need to look for ways to find those TIF financing that other parts have been successful in other parts of Nashville, like the Gulch. Thank you.
Well, thank you, candidates. We are now ready for your questions. Hopefully your juices are flowing, and these questions have stimulated some interest. And we're going to continue the same round-robin approach, starting with David. Okay, I've now transferred my entire consciousness to Zach and Mauro. They're going to keep me in line. So David will go first. And Laura, do you have the questions? We need the microphone.
What is your single most achievable goal as councilman?
Bob, I think that the best, most achievable goal is to guarantee, number one, that we'll fully fund education, as we stated about earlier, and that number two, that we'll fully staff the East Precinct Police Force. In addition to that, there's a number of other things that we can do in terms of the SP, as we talked a moment ago about, to try to facilitate business growth that I don't think is out of reach, even in the current economic climate. But I think that as a councilman, 30%